Well, greetings and welcome. It's great to have you here. Things look a little bit different here, as you might notice, for this webcast. I managed last week to pour a cup of coffee directly onto the keyboard of my MacBook Air. So I'm recording on a separate camera in a different location. So I'll be giving the introduction. We're going to use the meditation from before, and then we'll go into the webcast from there. Thanks for your patience. Technology, isn't it wonderful? So before we begin, a couple things. First of all, a big thank you to Glenn Harrison and Leo Gimo for producing this event. A big thank you to our Mindful Movement teacher and to the Mindful Dialogue folks. The whole smorgasbord experience on Monday night, as you may know, starts at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time with Mindful Movement led by Rita, Anna, or Lynn. And afterward, at about 8:45 Eastern Standard Time, you can join Mindful Dialogue facilitated by Ray Manioki and Tara Cassidy, who are wonderful people. Great way to connect. A great way to share about practice, et cetera, et cetera. So all that is there for you. Also, let's see. There's a newsletter. You can sign up for a newsletter, which gives you a summary of the talks, and I share my best photographs from the month with you. You can sign up there on my website. And thank you for your support. This is all offered freely, so no one's ever denied access to these practices and these teachings. That feels really important to me. So I receive no direct compensation for this. There are expenses that go into it, and I love the fact that it gets out around the world. So if you feel inspired to support me, that would be awesome. So you can do that on my website or on my Facebook page as well. So our exploration for today is an interesting one. We're on the topic of inquiry, but we're going to do a little bit more around embodied inquiry, the importance of befriending your body, and how to really make friends with your body, really as a tuning fork for mindfulness and intuition. So with that, we're going to move on to our meditation now, and then we'll pick it up in a little bit. I thought it might be interesting to explore in this meditation the whole theme of letting go and letting be. You know, so much of our practice is around willful attention, and much of the practice, equally, if not more, is about truly, truly letting be. You know, letting go of the mind, letting go of thoughts, letting go of anything that calls your attention away from the mystery of here and now. So if you like, you might like to reach your arms overhead. Take some time to stretch, adjust your posture in any way that feels best for you. If you like, you might hold your arms overhead just for a moment, not a requirement. But if you would, draw your navel in toward your spine. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears and reach up to the heels of the hands. Let your breath be slow and full and deep. And take a moment as you focus on the movement of the breath, this inner stance of the witness. Think of the witness as the awareness of everything that can change. And notice if there's any sensation beginning to build on the inside, any tingling or pulse or heat. Any play of sensation that may begin to move into the realm of unpleasant. Any sensations that may have a quality of pleasure to them. On the next in-breath, taking a long, slow, deep breath, inhale fully and hold the breath. And as you hold the breath, focus inward. Relax the muscles of your face. Let your awareness flood into your palms and fingers and thumbs. And as you're ready on the exhalation, let the hands begin a slow motion journey down toward your lap. If you like, you might slow this down and let the hands, the movement of the hands, the sense of the molecules of air slipping between the fingers be your anchor. Notice anything that might soften. Notice how awareness will either move into future or into the past or be absorbed into here and now, this flowing moment. Wherever you may find the hands, whether they're in transit, whether they've come to rest, stay deeply and intimately with yourself. You might sense from the inside the muscles of your face. Is it possible to let go of any subtle holding, any subtle tension here? Let your awareness roam around the inside of your mouth, the jaw, the lips, and the tongue. And notice here if it's possible to let go, to soften. And to feel from the inside what happens when you consciously release. Letting your awareness explore through the tops of the shoulders themselves, the length, the weight, the heaviness of the arms, and exploring the inner space of the palms and fingers and thumbs. And again, just inquiring, what could let go? What could soften here? You might direct your attention to the diaphragm and the belly and the lower abdomen down to the floor of the pelvis, the lower back and buttocks. And again, just explore, sense, is there anything here right now that could let go, that could soften or release? And feeling from the inside the length, the volume, the weight of your legs, the inner space in your feet and toes, soles of the feet and the heels. And as you explore, as you let awareness roam freely, what could soften or let go right now? And you might, if you like, over the next 3 exhalations, with each breath out, just sense through the whole of the body what could let go. You might escort your attention to an anchor of your choosing, and let your practice be this exploration of letting go of future forecasting, letting go of reviewing history, and embracing this felt sense of here and now. Letting go and arriving in presence. might notice the attitude in the mind right now. The mind is inclined toward grasping or wanting, or toward aversion or pushing away. Just noticing gently and inquiring, can I let this go? Can I let this be? And you might notice a quality of homecoming, of again softening inside, arriving in this sense of here and now. Sensing again this quality of non-judging, non-preferential awareness. Noting the flow and your capacity to let things be. And what could let go right now? Scanning through the felt sense of the body. What could soften? What could release? Is it possible to let go of the future, the past? And in these remaining 5 minutes or so, you might explore letting go even more. Letting go of doing. Letting go of control. Letting go of this sense of who you are as the meditator. And you might explore how deeply you can soften, how wide you can cast your awareness, and how intimately you can open to the natural flow of things. Letting all things be, letting all things flow just as they are. You might explore in this remaining minute or so this idea that enlightenment is simply the absence of desire. And the absence of wanting your experience any different than how it is. What do you feel? What do you notice? And you might notice the movement of the breath on the inside. Noticing the sound vibrations around you. The air touching your skin. Relaxed, alert. You might gently deepen your breath. And taking all the time you need. You might let your head drift a little to the left, to the right. Just sense how your body might like to move and shift and adjust as you begin your transition. You might like to again reach your arms overhead. It's great to practice with you. May you have a day filled with flowing, non-preferential awareness, and thereby as many magic moments as are possible. Welcome. Good to have you here. I'd like to share with you one of my favorite poems that I lead on retreats quite a bit. It really speaks to how the body can be an instrument for waking up, which is our topic for this session. It's called Living in the Body by Joyce Sutphin. The body is something you need in order to stay on this planet, and you only get one. And no matter which one you get, it will not be satisfactory. It will not be beautiful enough. It will not be fast enough. It will not keep on for days at a time, but will pull you down into a sleepy swamp and demand apples and coffee and chocolate cake. A body is a thing you have to carry from one day into the next. Always the same eyebrows over the same eyes and the same skin when you look in the mirror, and the same creaky knee when you get up from the floor, and the same wrist under the watch band. The changes you can make are small and costly. Better to leave it as it is. Body is a thing you have to leave eventually. You know that because you have seen others do it. Others who were once like you, living inside their pile of bones and flesh, smiling at you, loving you, leaning in the doorway, talking to you for hours, and then one day they're gone. No forwarding address. What a powerful inquiry that is. What a powerful exploration. Living in this body that one day will not be here. And yet, this very body becomes a very, very powerful tool when it comes to exploring the nature of reality itself. I'd like to talk a little bit about when we explore through the body, the importance of attitude and intention. And to talk as well about what it means to be a student of the body, to really cultivate more and more somatic awareness. I'd like to talk as well about what it means to really take on your body as a partner, and a model for inquiry I'd like to take you through. So I'm always fascinated by the importance of intention. I've talked a lot about the power of questions and the questions that can help you decide what car you're going to buy next, as well as the questions that can help you turn your attention toward what we could say is your true nature. One of those questions put forward by Ramana Maharshi, this great sage from India, is the question, what do you really want? As I've explored that question, and when you really track it through, what I've noticed is that first it begins very self-centered. And then if I stay with the inquiry, it becomes a little bit more other-centered. And this opens up the question around the why your questions are important to you. For example, I used to do a lot of fundraising a long time ago. And as I read about fundraising and read about the whole principles of generosity, there's a very interesting element where if you're making money for yourself, there's a certain kind of psychic cap that you have around how much you really deserve. But if you're making money for others, that is to say you're taking care of a family, somehow kind of psychically you've opened the doors to allow more money to come through because it's to benefit others. You're more of a conduit. And if you are wanting to raise money for an important cause, it's not for you, but it's really to serve others. You've opened the conduit even wider. Can you have a sense of that? And it's an interesting thing. It's kind of the same relationship with your body, or at least what I notice with my body. For example, if you are asking the question, what can you do to feel more healthy? Well, this brings us to the why. And the why kind of opens up the feeling total. Like, why would you want to feel more healthy? And where I go is right to the self-centered reflection, which is why I want to look better. And if I look better, I get more attention. If I get more attention, I'll have more opportunities. I'll feel good about myself. When I compare myself to others, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to get more success if I'm healthy and I look good and I feel good. I'll have less pain. I'll have less suffering. Me. But under that is if I'm healthy and I have more energy to really focus on what's most important in my life. If I'm healthy and I have more energy, I'll be able to better provide for the people I love. I'll be better able to serve from a place of fullness as opposed to a place of depletion. So taking time to reflect on the why with any questions you might be exploring is very, very important. I think the highest intention perhaps is to be happy, to be self-realized, to really know contentment that is not dependent on externals. And so the body is this tool, and I've yacked about this a lot in the past, but the body is this amazing doorway. As the Buddha said, everything you need to know can be realized through the body. So as we explore inquiry, remembering that is really, really helpful. The body will help to guide you. And when you explore offering the benefit of your practices to be a benefit to others, offering the merit to be a benefit to others, you become more of a conduit. You make more space for energy, for insight to flow. So, the importance of awareness of the body, our relationship to the body is really important. And most of us have a little work to do when it comes to shifting out of our negative bias toward the body and exploring other options of how to be in relationship with the body and the felt sense of the body. I've asked this question before, but have you ever looked in the mirror and had a judgmental thought? Have you ever looked in the mirror and not? Most of us feel our body isn't good looking enough, it's not fast enough, etc., etc., etc. Body image has been a big issue for me. I'd say right now I am 6'5", I'm around 190 pounds. That would be considered on the thin, kind of on the low end, still, healthy. When I was in high school, I was 6'5", and I was around 160 pounds. That would be a little on the low end. I'm a classic ectomorph. Trying to find clothes is a real challenge. I have a 37-inch sleeve. I have size 15 shoes. I'm what is called a hard gainer. It is impossible for me to put weight on. I have always tried to put on weight and have never been able to, and have always felt very self-conscious around being this large stick-like person. Remember one time I was living in Niger in French West Africa, and biking. I did a lot of biking, and I kind of biked to these villages, and there's a phrase that people would say toward white people, which is anusara, and anusara literally means pink man, which refers to sunburn, I guess. So I would come up on my bike through a little village, and kids would come running out, and they'd say "Anasara en vélo, Anasara en vélo," white guy on a bike. And then when I would get off the bike, they would all stop and go "Dogo Anasara," which means tall white guy. So I've always stood out. I've always had issues around my self-image, but as I've gotten older, I've come to realize that now I've got the body everyone wants. And I had a flash many years ago. I was on retreat. I was maybe about 30 years old, a pretty intensive retreat. And I remember looking in the mirror for a long time on this retreat, which is kind of sometimes not a good thing to do. But I was just looking in the mirror, and I had this. It was just an instant, but when it was one of those like somatic, like, oof, that was a moment. I had this image of like this 65-year-old balding guy smiling back at me, really happy. And I realized that that's me now. But at that time, it was like, you know what? As I age, why wouldn't I become more happy? And that actually began to kind of shift my relationship with my body a little bit. As I've felt my body age, as I've watched my hairline migrate, I'm moving toward maybe a little more wisdom, a little more happiness. And it's helped me to move a little bit from judgment to a little more gratitude and appreciation. And we all have our own journey and relationship with our bodies. But I'd like to offer a little Zen pop quiz. If you like, you can close your eyes. And if you would, I'd like to invite you to bring your hand to your belly. And if you would, with your eyes closed, taking a nice long deep inhalation, and slowly exhale. And with your hand on your belly, just take a moment to sense this intention to befriend your body. Just to make peace with your body. I'd like to offer a little breathing technique, if you would. And that is to breathe in slowly to the count of 4, and then without lingering in between the in-breath and the out-breath, move right into an exhalation to the count of 4. So you're breathing into the count of 4, you're exhaling to the count of 4. Meanwhile, hand on your belly, and just sensing what it's like to come into this sense of here and now. And if you would now, notice if you can lengthen your in-breath to the count of 5 and lengthen the out-breath to the count of 5. Watching the breath closely now, but also simultaneously noticing if you could soften, if you could relax. You might now let the breath soften, let go of any control of the breath. And just take a moment just to feel on the inside. Is it possible to soften inside a little bit right now? Is it possible to relax? And imagine the possibility of your body as an ally. Imagine the possibility that your body is truly here to serve you, that it is giving you messages, that it is here to serve as a feedback loop for what feels right, to help to guide you toward a greater sense of wholeness and well-being. If you like, you can gently deepen the breath. If you like, you can open the eyes, or you can remain with them closed. So it's an interesting question here. How can your body be an ally? Is it possible that your body could be an advisor? Carlos Castaneda, famously said, "Imagine death on your left shoulder, serving as your advisor." So powerful. But in that same way, imagine your body as an advisor. Imagine your body could be this amazing tuning fork that you could tune into. It's pretty juicy stuff. Partnering with your body becomes incredibly powerful. And it can be really, really simple, which just can be to simply say, let me pause for a moment and just check in. Some of us are more naturally inclined toward what we would call kinesthetic intuition, to how things feel on the inside. Some of us are more oriented toward visualization or toward the auditory. But your body can be a really powerful tool. Imagine that someone asks you to go out to dinner and they say, "Hey, we're going out for Indian food. Come on, see you there at 7:30. The mind might say, "Oh my God, I don't want to miss out. This could be really, really good." Your mind might be kind of instantly moving toward, "Oh, it's going to be too late for me." But if you were to pause, just pause and close your eyes and check in, you might notice that there are some internal signals that you can tune into. And I'll go more into detail here. But again, imagine here that your body is trying to communicate with you. Now, how would it communicate? It can only communicate through feeling tone. I did a lot of study with Dr. Eugene Genlin in the whole realm of focusing. And what he finds is that where we tend to feel is through the midline of the body. It's around the eyes, maybe that hot feeling like you're going to tear up. It can be in your mouth, in your throat, the lump in your throat, in your chest. It can be that tight feeling in your heart. It can be that squeeze in your sternum, or it can be down in the gut where you feel that kind of twisted feeling in your guts. Sometimes the feeling is strong and unmistakable. You can't miss it. That lump in your throat is right there. Sometimes it'll come and go, just like when you're practicing meditation. You notice like a feeling comes, it blips, and then you can't find it. Quite often, it's somewhat unformed and kind of amorphous. But you can actually train yourself to tune into it. So imagine you have this invitation to go out, and you close your eyes for a moment, and you just check in. And it's like you're telling your body, okay, let's check this out. I'm going to go out and go for Indian food. And then you wait and you listen. You listen to that internal response. It might be a feeling of expansion and elation. It might be like, oh, this is absolutely, my body is saying yes. Or it might be your body saying no. There just might be just a feeling of aversion or tightening. Or it might be that there's something you need in order to go. So it's not black and white. It might be, oh gosh, here's this feeling of tension inside. No, I don't want to go. I just have this sense my body is needing sleep. Well, let me check out. What if I left at 9? Let me run that by. So then you sort of tell your body, okay, I'm going to go, but I'm going to make sure I'm out the door at 9 p.m. How does that feel? And then listen, and you might find a different response internally. So I'd like to tell you about this model, and I have been exploring for a really, really long time different models that can really help to tune in and do inquiry, kind of intuitive exploration. And let me tell you about this, because I've looked for acronyms, but I want to run this by you because I think it might be pretty good. I'm trying out the acronym INWARD, INWARD. So the I stands for inquiry. So what is the question you're exploring? Now, there are different kinds of questions, of course. But the kind of question that you are asking yourself, you have to ask yourself, does this feel right? Is this the question I want to explore? It might be as simple as, let's say you're going into meditation, and your inquiry might be like, how can I relax and at the same time pay attention? Or how can I keep my palms soft? Or it might even be, how is loving awareness present right now? We'll go more into questions in a little bit because they're really, really critical. But then let's say, and I want to offer this question we can try on, like, how is loving awareness present right now? I find to be a really interesting inquiry. So you ask yourself, why? Well, why is this question important? Why is this question significant? And it might be, well, loving awareness is where it's at. I'd really like to be able to tune into this and be able to resonate more with loving awareness, have more access to loving awareness. So as you reflect on that, you might reflect on how, what that would feel like, what that would be like. And what this will do is it'll open up that sense of really of deep sincerity, which is really critical in the practice. So, inquiry. What's the question? Why is it significant? Opening up to a sense of sincerity. And then the final thing here, which I find to be critical, is the offering of merit. May this exploration be a benefit to myself and be a benefit to all. You've just opened up the conduit, kind of making more room for whatever needs to occur. Now, the N in this acronym is going into a natural state. That is to say, a natural state where stress is not predominating. So there are a number of ways to do this, but it's about changing your state. Noticing where there's tension, doing any kind of movement, any kind of breath awareness that can help you to become more present. So it's about moving from the linear rational mind, which is judging, comparing, and trying to figure things out, and opening into what we could call this state of natural awareness, where the mind is not comparing, the mind is not judging, the mind is not trying to figure anything out. It's about becoming present. Of course, there are tons of techniques that can help you to move into that state, and generally, they follow the basic guidelines of mindfulness, using calming techniques or shamatha practices, and then moving into vipassana, sort of the insight practices. So as you kind of find yourself moving toward this more of a natural, open state of awareness, you again reinforce the question. So, okay, what is this question? How is loving awareness present right now? Now here is really critical. We move into the W, which I'm just calling a watch or the witness. Because it's important that you take this seat of the observer. Your capacity to observe without judgment, your capacity to observe without preference. This is the state that facilitates insight. And what I find very, very helpful, I'll guide you through this, is to take some time to really practice being the witness. I find for myself that identifying visual, sound, feeling from that witness place to be really, really helpful. And then beginning to kind of tune in on the kinesthetic, kind of on the felt sense. When you're in this place of witness, then you allow yourself to allow, just to be aware of the flow of your experience. The R is to record what you're aware of, just simply noticing. From time to time, you come back, you reinforce the question, how is loving presence awareness right now? And it's like you're dropping a pebble into a well, and there are little ripples that move out from that landing point. And you simply observe. Now the final, because I couldn't think of a better word, at the end of IMWARD is to kind of debrief. And this is to really ask yourself, so what was helpful? What do I want to remember from this inquiry? Sometimes what I find is when I'm exploring a particular question, there's really nothing that occurs of any great significance for me. But what I have noticed, and what many, many people have noticed, is that simply by asking the question and listening, something begins to open. It might not be immediate, but some kind of shift may occur. Finally, again, it's helpful just to offer the merit, whatever benefit, whatever fruit may have arisen from this, to release it and to let it go. So it's kind of a long walk through, but it's relatively simple. Know the question, clarify the question for yourself. Take the time to move into a natural state. Take the seat of the observer. Introduce the question, and then again, open into the sense of allowing and simply recording what's there, and then debriefing. So if you're willing to give this a go, I'm going to lead what will be a somewhat longer experience. I think we'll probably be about 7 minutes or so. And if you have a particular question you would like to explore, I'd like to offer this particular question. How is loving awareness present right now? That's going to be the question we work with. So if you like, you can close your eyes. Let's take a moment to kind of reflect on that question. How is loving awareness present right now? And you might take a moment to kind of sense, why is this question important to you? Can you find some significance for you? And you might, in your own way, kind of reflect on cultivating a quality of sincerity, like to really know. I'd really like to know how loving awareness is present right now. As we move into this practice, it's also helpful to just offer the merit of your practice. Any benefit that might come out of this, offer it freely to be a benefit to yourself and your path, be a benefit for others. And with this question, just kind of there in the background, we'll explore what it's like to move into a more natural state of awareness. So you might take a moment and just notice the quality of your breath right now. As you sense inside, let your attention move in any way that feels good. One of the most powerful ways to change your state, of course, is through breath. So you might return again to this sense of coherent breathing. Slowly inhaling to the count of 4, gliding directly into the exhalation to the count of 4. Notice if you can both relax and sharpen your attention to the movement of breath and the counting of the breath. And as you explore relaxing even more, you might explore lengthening the counting, maybe to the count of 5. Again, you're relaxing and sharpening your attention. And now for the next little bit, is it possible to lengthen the breath to the count of 6? This is a shamatha practice, concentrating and calming, present moment awareness. And now you might soften, smooth out your forehead. Let the breath fall away. Any control of the breath fall away if that feels right for you. Feel the inside of your mouth. Relax your tongue. You might feel the weight of your arms. And as you sense down the length of your arms, down through the elbows and down through the wrists, take a few moments here to consciously soften your palms. And as you relax the palms and maybe even feel the fingertips, can you sense any pulse or tingling here? Letting your attention now move to your belly. Notice if you can feel the movement of the breath here in your belly. Softening to the lower back and the buttocks. Sensing now down the length of the legs. Feel the weight, the volume of your legs. And in particular, you might feel the soles of your feet. Feel the heels from the inside. As you allow your body to deeply relax and soften, you might sense who you are as this being of energy and feeling. You might also sense here who you are as the one who is aware, sensing this seat of the witness, the observer. Imagine, if you will, this quality of non-judging awareness. It's awareness with no preferences, but seeing clearly what's here. Now, just for the next minute or so, notice if you can, as you soften inside, the arising of either visual images or the awareness of sound or the awareness of feeling. And from this place of the witness, when you notice visual information predominant, just use the word see. When there's a sound that calls your attention, label this with the word hear. And when there's a feeling inside, use the word feel. Labeling what arises in the felt sense of the body with the words see, hear, feel. Is there anything now that could soften or relax? For this next little period of time, I'd like to invite you to, from time to time, internally ask the question, how is loving awareness present right now? And just simply notice the experience the question takes you into. You might in particular open your awareness to feeling, to the felt sense inside. Allow anything to move, to flow, to shift, both observing and recording what arises through this lens of the witness. How is loving awareness present right now? You might refresh the inquiry, letting go of any expectation, any judgment, comparison, asking the question and just simply noticing what arises as you ask that. How is loving awareness present right now? You might now let this drop away. Let the question drop away. Again, notice where you feel the breath on the inside right now. And allow yourself to kind of reflect on what you noticed over those few minutes of simply noticing where the question takes you. What was helpful? Was there anything particularly challenging in this practice? Is there anything you'd want to remember? You might let go of any sense that you could have done this better. And just trust that exploring this question may be opening some new doorways. And again, offering whatever benefit, whatever fruit has come out of this practice, offering it to yourself, to your path, offering it to be a benefit to all. And if you like, you might deepen your breath. You might shift your attention in any way that feels good for you. And if you like, you can open your eyes. So I hope that was helpful. It may have felt a little clunky, but that's the way this works. And it's also really helpful to reflect on what was your experience. And there are two things that are always helpful. What was challenging? And what was helpful? What I find in this particular question, how am I experiencing love and presence right now, is I start reflecting on how I'm not experiencing it. And again, these questions are kind of like pouring fresh water into a glass of muddy water. This kind of flushes the toxins through. So when I explore this question, quite often, I kind of reflect on how I haven't been generous, how I've been petty, how I judge myself, how I judge others. When I stay with it, it kind of moves from there to touching into sometimes a genuine experience of, well, what if loving awareness was present right now? What would that feel like? There are a couple other things. What I find helpful in this kind of exploration is that it can be helpful when you're doing this on your own to do some journaling. Writing is a very powerful way of kind of capturing what's there. And this question, again, can be somewhat cathartic because it'll tends to bring up everything that it isn't. So everything that isn't loving awareness tends to come up. So again, many, many different ways that you can play with these models of inquiry. But that's just one in particular I wanted to share with you. Now, there are different questions that we can ask that are tremendously helpful. And I'll go more into these in the very near future. But a question such as, how is loving awareness present right now, is a question that takes you into an experience. It takes you into it's more of a probing question, which can be a little bit cathartic. There are other questions that are around reframing. Like if, let's say, you're exploring a situation where there's conflict, if you were to ask the question, what can I learn about this? What's the lesson here for me? That kind of question can really take you into some very, very interesting spaces. There are questions that can be very, very powerful that can really take you into exploring solutions to real-world issues. What's the most important thing for me to focus on today? Or I often ask myself, pretty much every morning, the ritual is, what are the 3 most important things for me to accomplish today? And that really helps me a lot. Because I've got about 10,000 things to do every day. But when I get to the top 3, and I go through that process of clarification, it makes a big difference. There are challenging questions. And another area which we'll explore soon is exploring something you might be believing and then challenging yourself. Is that true? Is what I believe true? Pretty powerful stuff. So questions are here to explore your relationship to reality. And there are many different flavors. And I really look forward to sharing more with you on these practices and how they can be helpful. Let's take just a few minutes to explore a little bit. And we'll do a little more truncated practice here. It doesn't have to be as lengthy as I made it. So if you like, you can close your eyes. You might slow down your breath. I'd like to offer maybe if there's a particular question that you have, feel free to bring one to mind. Or I'll kind of offer up the question, what would be most nourishing when this talk is complete? What would be most nourishing? An act of kindness. You might reflect on why is it important to be self-nourishing and nurturing? And take a few moments as we explore just coming into a more natural state. You can close your eyes. What could soften inside? Where do you feel the breath? And can you sense this quality of the witness? Observing, non-judging. And as you gently pose the question now, again, what would be most nourishing? What would be an act of kindness as this talk ends? Allow anything and everything to arise. What do you feel? What do you notice? And you might take a moment just to sense, if you were to do this, if you were to perform an act of self-kindness, what would that feel like? What would that be like? Whatever arose for you in this very brief inquiry, imagine you can just let it go, offer the merit, offer the fruit of this. Imagine your path opening with greater ease. And in some way, all beings benefiting. And when you're ready, you can gently let your eyes open. If you like, you can deepen your breath. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention. I truly hope this is helpful. I find these practices can really dramatically open up all kinds of new possibilities in life. Thank you, and happy trails.